Welcome to Protea Conversations, the podcast where leadership in business and accounting isn't just discussed, it's explored. I'm your host, Zane Stevens, and thank you for joining me as we delve into the minds of some of the most influential leaders in the industry. Our journey is one of discovery, from unraveling the unique stories that shape our guests' career to the invaluable advice that fueled their success. We are here to provide you with simple, actionable advice to accelerate your career and personal growth. Whether you're a budding professional or a seasoned executive, these conversations are designed to offer insights and perspectives that resonate with everyone. So tune in, engage, and be inspired as we build better leaders together. Welcome to Protea Conversations. Today, I'm really excited to welcome Adam Lean, a former accountant turned two-time entrepreneur who successfully built, scaled, and sold multiple businesses. Adam's passion for helping business owners understand their financials led him to create the CFO Project, a platform designed to help accountants and bookkeepers overcome industry challenges such as increasing competition and threat of automation. Through CFO Project, Adam provides a system that allows professionals to transition from just compliance work to offering high-quality CFO advisory services, helping them stand out, earn more, and make a bigger impact on the clients and businesses. He's also the host of the CFO Project podcast, where he discusses all things accounting. Adam, welcome. I'm really excited to hear about your journey.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's always a little nerve-wracking when I decide to interview people who have very successful podcasts that have been running for a long time. Because I think I'm definitely still an amateur at this pastime.
Well, I'm not sure if successful podcast is what I would call it, but I think it's a really good podcast. I've learned a lot, and we're about 60 episodes in, so I think we're on the journey to becoming successful.
Well, I listened to a few this weekend. I was very intrigued. I've added it to my list of podcasts to catch up on. And I'm terrible at listening to industry podcasts in general. I tend to be listening to what's happening with the 49ers, what's happening with Chelsea Football Club. That's sort of where I spend most of my time. So I'm trying to get better at listening to other accountants to maybe help me become better at this interview process.
Yeah, well, I think we can all get better at that.
Yeah, well, we try to keep it really simple over here. Just try to have a simple conversation. And the most important part that we're trying to find out today, who is Adam? Where did he come from? What's he doing now? And what can we learn from him to be more successful, just like you?
All right, sounds good. I'm excited.
So let's start at the early stage. You started off as an accountant, for a lack of a better term. What made you decide to go that route?
I mean, honestly, I don't know. That's the crazy part. In college, I had to pick a major. I actually started as an architecture major, but I got a job and at this company, and I worked. It was like a small family-owned business, and I was able to do a lot with the owner and helping her run the business. And I really enjoyed that part, the running of the business. So I switched from architecture to business college, and then within the business school, of course, I had to pick a major. So honestly, I just looked at the list and thought, well, I could become an accountant. That seems like a clear job. So I honestly don't know why I did it other than that. It was just, I've heard of accounting before, so I just chose accounting. And so I got a job as an accountant after college. And the thing that surprised me the most is that in college, when I was working for this small family-owned business, I was able to have a lot of influence on the business. I was able to help the business grow, and I was able to suggest marketing and sales and operations ideas and implement them. And it was a lot of fun. Well, when I got my job as an accountant, I went from being, sort of this big fish in a small pond to being a minnow who was tasked with sitting behind for 8 hours a day to record the past.
Yeah.
And that didn't sit well with me. I just didn't like it. I liked where I worked, but I did not like the job of just recording the past. I wanted to help the business grow. So that is really how I got into accounting.
But it was quite a jump, right? You went from a small business with lots of influence to a massive business, right? It wasn't, really big business.
Yeah, totally. I became one of the accountants for Six Flags, which is, everybody's heard of Six Flags. And so I did the accounting for 3 of their parks. And I liked where I worked. I loved working there. I just didn't like the job of recording the past. I wanted to help the business grow.
It makes sense, right? When you change that major, you're getting in it because you wanted to run a business. And a senior accountant at Six Flags is definitely not running the business.
No, no, not at all. Nobody really cares what the accountant necessarily thinks as long as the books are recorded and taxes are filed and, whatever, and which is fine. But I had all this because I had this pent up energy of I wanted to do something. I actually started a business on the side, an e-commerce business back in the early 2000s, an e-commerce business. And that allowed me to use my creativity skills, my sales skills, my marketing skills to do something that to do something. And so I built a e-commerce business using those skills. What was interesting though is that fast forward a few years later, I started working with other e-commerce business owners. And remember, this is in the early 2000s when e-commerce, or mid to late 2000s at this point, where e-commerce wasn't a huge thing. You know what I mean? That was before Shopify, before Amazon started allowing marketplace sellers, before all the software was readily available. There wasn't that many resources out there. So I lived in Atlanta at the time. I joined this club at Georgia Tech called the Atlanta Web Entrepreneurs, which is like this small niche group of geeky guys that got together that all had internet businesses. But it was a lot of fun. And anyways, through that process, I started meeting other e-commerce business owners. And I realized for the first time that I took for granted the fact that I understood the numbers in my business because I was an accountant. I had a background in accounting. All these people didn't. They were running their business because they were an expert at their craft. Somebody that started a business selling, a remote control radio, like, CB radios. Like he knew that world,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't know accounting. He didn't know numbers. He didn't understand how to read his numbers. So when I started working with these people and realized, and I realized that I was growing my business because I was understanding the drivers of the numbers, like drivers of revenue, drivers of profit, drivers of cash flow. I understood what was working, what was not, and what I needed to do to fix all that. They didn't, but because I did, I started working with them and they loved it. And that morphed into offering advisory, CFO advisory services. And so that really is how I got my start in this whole CFO advisory thing.
That is interesting. I talk about this a lot on this platform and others as well, that I really think that everybody that goes to college should take an introductory to accounting course. Like, you don't need to learn how to process journals. That could help you a little bit, but the ability to actually look at a profit and loss statement and a balance sheet and actually know what it means. I mean, you don't have to be proficient. That's why you hire professionals. But I think it helps when a number of business owners we run into and they see a set of financials and you can see them just shut down straight away.
Totally.
And they lose all like ability to even have a conversation. Like, all they become then is defensive to the situation when they're, because it's confusing. They don't know what's going on. They feel stupid going into the conversation, and it's very hard to be open, to helpful information when you're feeling, you're such on the back foot. It's like a dog stuck in a corner.
Yeah, but most accountants do and this is a very strong opinion, but most accountants do a disservice by giving their clients these financials. Because why would you give a set of reports that mean nothing to somebody and expect them to use them to grow their business? It just doesn't make sense. Accounting report, the P&L, balance sheet, statement of cash flows are accounting reports. They're not managerial. They're just not. I mean, if whoever created the accounting systems way back when, the way accounting is laid out is brilliant. It makes complete sense to accountants, but it doesn't make sense to everybody else. But if I'm quite certain that accountant and whoever created the accounting mechanism, the way the accounting works, did not intend to have business owners really understand these reports. They were made so that accountants can make sure the books are recorded correctly and accurately and timely. That's why they were made, which is fine, but has nothing to do with helping business owners have a growing business. Business owners care way more about having a better future than they do about ensuring that the past is recorded correctly. And let me say that again, because I don't mean they don't care about the past recording is recorded correctly. I mean that they care more about having a better future than having the past recorded correctly. So if they had to decide, if they only had one choice, do I want my accountant to help me have a better future, or do I just want my accountant to ensure that the past is recorded correctly? They're going to choose the better future. And so we've, as accountants, if we want to help business owners, we've got to think differently.
Yeah, that's really important. And I'm sure if all the business owners listening there at the moment, they're probably shaking their head going, yep, exactly. There's way too much focus on the historical. Obviously, it takes a lot of time, right? It's time consuming. But I think what we also forget as accountants when we are putting that information in front of our clients, it's already old information. They've already moved on, already made decisions, reacting to whatever they're seeing in front of them, their bank balance, that report from their POS system that says this is how much the sales were this month. Like they're already going ahead. So if you're not
Totally.
thinking about at least structuring your conversations about what does this history mean for your future, you're going to lose them because, like you said, it's important. Great, I need it compliance wise. I want to be able to do my taxes, all those good things. But it doesn't help me run my business if you're just talking about the past. We need to start focusing on the future. Seems simple, right?
I mean, it seems simple. I mean, but I think this is the other thing is that we as in the accounting profession have to put ourselves in our clients' shoes. And we live, breathe, think, eat accounting and bookkeeping and whatnot. And we are the minority of people on earth that do.
Yeah.
Most people don't. Most people don't like numbers. They don't like financials. Like you said earlier, it's confusing to them. It doesn't make sense. It's like if, most of us are not dentists. Therefore, when we go to the dentist, we don't want our dentist speaking dentist-ese, like dentist language,
Mm-hmm.
speaking in dental jargon. We just want our dentist to say, do I have a cavity or not? What do I need to do to make my mouth feel better? Like that's the language we want our dentist to speak in. So if we expect that from our dentist, why do we not expect our clients to expect that from us? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, very interesting. When I my job straight out of KPMG, I went to work for a large listed subsidiary of you know a technology company, and the whole point what you're talking about the future, like I was they call it management accountant, but effectively I was the accountant for that division. And if I think about the amount of time I spent with that general manager every month, it was maybe half a day we'd talk about the past, what the results were, just because we needed to tick it off for month end. But the other 19 and a half business days, we were constantly talking about the future. And not just
Yeah.
like what's happening this week, what's happening next month, what's happening next year, what's happening for, we're talking about the next budget cycle 3 months into the first budget cycle, right? So it is very clear, like that person who was running the business, he did it because he had to. And obviously it made sense. He wanted to make sure his revenues are correct. He's hitting his profit targets because obviously that affects his back pocket. But he wanted to know, okay, how do we make sure we keep on that revenue target? How do we keep on that profit target? How do I make sure that I'm covering, my shared expenses on a monthly basis? How can he justify my cost that's coming into his P&L on a monthly basis? That's what he wanted to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's way more interesting to business owners. It just is. They want to talk about things that are important to them. It's way more interesting. They couldn't care less where this, $800 office supply was recorded on their books. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, why are we spending time talking about stuff like that?
Just put it to other or miscellaneous and move on with life. I don't care. It's interesting though, because I'm re-listening to Super Communicators at the moment. A really great book if you haven't. And there's a whole chapter going into it and really understanding what people want to talk about and what the real issue is. And it's one of those that really resonate to me because what you're touching on right now is that we think clients want to talk about the history. You think they care about the $500 that they're not sure where to allocate, and they honestly don't. I mean, obviously, if it's a material amount, they'll care, but we have to better understand what our clients' needs are, and it's going to change. Like it's future looking all the time, but I'm in the wine industry. People are going to harvest right now, so cash flow is under extreme pressure because there are just extra costs, in terms of extra labor, rentals, all those types of things. So my clients right now want to talk about their short-term cash flows. When we get through that, they want to start talking about budgeting sales for the next year. When we get through that, okay, now let's talk about year end, get our taxes done on time. Then we're into bottling. Now I want to talk about bottling, how much my wine costs. So as much as the conversation is important about the future, it does flow and change in the cycles as well. So as accountants, we have to be really adaptive, make sure we're paying attention and listening, and always trying to remember to ask that question, which you basically put out there: what do our clients want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's all about the client and what they want. And we teach our members in our program that one of the first things that you should do is find out what your client wants. What do they define as success? How do they define a successful business? We know from a financial professional standpoint that a successful business is one that can generate positive cash flow on a consistent basis. We know that. But how do our clients define success? So we've got to make sure our clients hit their definition of success and our definition of success. And if we can do that, then they'll pay us for CFO advisory services a lot more than they'll pay us for tax prep or bookkeeping or any other accounting service, because that's what they want. They want to have successful business.
So let's quickly fill in the gaps, because I want to jump into the CFO project more, but we did go from Six Flags, we joined a nerdy club to learn about e-commerce and how that business ran. We started offering service, but there's like an 8-year gap between Six Flags and the CFO project, a role at Roller Skate Nation, RC Sports. Tell us about the journey in between the two.
Yeah, so I started this e-commerce business on the side, and it happened to grow. And I didn't really know what I was doing because I've never done this before, but I experimented and tested, which you have to do in business, as I've since found out. As with, in the past 15 years, you got to pivot and just see what works. Testing. Nobody knows what's going to work until you put it out there and test, because your customers will respond to what works. And if they don't respond to it, you keep pivoting until you find out what works. Anyways, I tested a bunch of different concepts with my e-commerce store, and I found one that worked. And I remember coming home one day and logging onto my computer and seeing I got my very first sale. And that was so exciting. It's like this hit of dopamine. Like you just want it more and more and more. And so I just kept at it, and it became this sort of hobby for me, as to how can I optimize my store, and then how can I get clients, customers to visit. How, once they visit the website, how can I get them to buy? Then how can I get them to buy more? And then all this. And so I focused on my website for the next couple of years, and I was able to leave my day job as an accountant, and I focused on my website, and it grew and grew. And then, I was able to do some other things with my time. Like I volunteered at a camp as a camp director during the summers. And I mean, it afforded me time to be able to do things and flexibility. And so I had my e-commerce store for 7 or 8 years. And then I ended up selling it to one of my suppliers, my largest distributor. And for multiple different reasons, but I sold it to them, and then fascinated with this idea that business owners need help. Because belonging to these business groups where I was talking to other business owners, a lot of them are struggling. And then I realized I came across a statistic from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics that half of all businesses make it to their 5th birthday. That's crazy to think about. 1 out of every 2 businesses won't make it to their 5th birthday. When you think about what's involved in starting a business, it's no easy task. And there's a lot of debt that's involved usually, and there's blood, sweat, tears, and time. And while you're building your business, you probably don't have income coming in. And then after 5 years, within 5 years, it's gone because it doesn't make it. Why? Why is that a thing? Like, why is that statistic so bad? And so I wanted to do something about it. And so that's why my next venture, I wanted to start helping business owners. And I knew enough to know that they don't care about the past as much as they want to have a better future. And because of my experience helping these other e-commerce business owners, I called a couple of those people up that own e-commerce stores that I knew. And I said, hey, I'm thinking about starting this thing. I didn't even call it a CFO business at the time. I'm just started thinking about this thing where I look at your numbers and then tell you what to do. And they're like, yes, I need this.
Yep.
Hire me. And this was before I even started the business. Or let me hire you. This is before I started the business. I had my first several clients.
That's impressive. I mean, obviously you laid the groundwork before. You had the conversations with those people. You had taken time with them. You guys were all masterminding together, sort of that peer group. which I think is great, right? Like, I was also looking, I was like, I'm sure if, Roller Skate Nation still exists, so clearly was doing something right. Good exit there. You knew what you were doing, right? So you come in with a reputation. You've done this. You've been able to do it successfully. You've been able to have conversations with them about I'm sure a little bit about the historicals, but specifically about planning for the future, which is really good. So you come in to this niche, into this community, going like, hey, we trust Adam. We know Adam knows what he's doing. Plus, he has this expertise that we don't have. Like you were saying, these are just people who had a passion for something and they're trying to sell it, which is, the definition of almost every entrepreneur out there, right? They have some sort of passion
Totally.
and they feel like, great, I want to go and turn this into a business, but they lack all the skills that come along with it. And definitely the one they lack the most is accounting. And even the ones who might have an accounting background, they probably haven't used those skills in a while and honestly don't have the time to spend on doing accounting. Just not a good use of their time. So I'm sure, just a cry out like, yes, we're looking for this person that can help us, whatever the heck you call it, consultant, CFO, advisor, but we need it. We're willing to pay for it. Tell us how to sign.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, somebody owns a bakery. They got into business because they're probably from the bakery industry, food industry. They love baking or whatever. They start a bakery. It's like if they started their business, they're starting their business and they decide to spend all their time learning how to build an oven themselves and becoming an oven craft person and building their oven so they can bake their goods in the oven. Like, that doesn't make sense. The bakery buys an oven from somebody who already knows how to make ovens so that that bakery person can focus on their craft, which is baking goods. So it's the same thing with accounting. Why would a business owner start and do something that's just almost like a necessary evil? The baker needs an oven. A business owner needs an accountant. Why would they take the time to understand accounting when they just pay somebody who already knows what they're doing to do the accounting? So in other words, it's like it's an afterthought. It's like, yeah, just get somebody to do the books, which is why you see a lot of business owners have their spouse do the books or their kids do the books or their office manager, people that may not be qualified because they don't really value the bookkeeping as much as we think they should, as much as we in the accounting profession think they should. They don't value it. Therefore, they're not going to pay top dollar for good bookkeeping or good tax prep because they think all tax prep services are the same. They can't tell the difference between a good accountant and a bad one. So why would they pay one accountant, $2,000 more than what another accountant's going to do? Not to mention all this tech software that's coming in is trying to automate tax services or bookkeeping services. Business owners, in other words, the moral of the story is business owners don't really care as much about that, much like a baker doesn't care how the oven's made. They just want an oven installed. And you know what I mean? It just...
Yeah. And with that example, they're willing to pay top dollar for the oven because they know that a highly reliable, even, heating oven is going to make a big difference to their baking process. But they're not willing to pay, top dollar for accounting because having good books is not going to make those baked goods taste any better.
Yeah. And they're not going to want to learn how to make an oven or develop or design it or build it themselves. They don't want to do that. Just like business owners don't want to learn how to do the books or understand the bookkeeping or understand how to do numbers themselves. It just has to be done by somebody. And so they just get somebody to do it, but it's just not their focus.
And I think, it rolls back down to your point that people care more about the future than they do about the historical. And because they don't care really about the historical, it is impossible for them to tell if it's good book or bad bookkeeping because they're really not paying attention. As long as it's there,
how would you know?
Nobody's complaining. My biggest referral source is because people come in and like their tax provider or their banker or their insurance company or an investor says, your books are terrible. I can't use it to talk about the future anymore. So speak to Zane. So that's when it comes to a point, it'll eventually matter, but normally it's so far down the line that, they're just hiring Joe Schmo at the side of the corner, the aunts, uncles, brother's cousin who had a course in high school to do their bookkeeping. I think it's a really good point. Like, if we really want people to care about those the accounting work, the bookkeeping work, like, then we need to change the conversation.
Totally. And the other thing is, I don't think that business owners connect the dots that bookkeeping or accounting is the answer to their problems. In fact, I think they think it has nothing to do with the answer to their problems. Business owners think that the answer to their problems lies in more sales or more people or more inventory or better location, things that have nothing to do with the bookkeeping or accounting. And so the message we need to give to our clients or future clients is, look, everything that you do in business impacts cash flow. Cash flow is the only thing required to stay in business and to have a better business. So we need to make sure that everything you do is impacting cash flow in a positive way, meaning you're going to get more of it and keep more of it. That is my job. My job is to help you do that. Get and keep more cash flow so that you'll stay in business, you'll have a bigger business, you can take home more money, you can go on more vacations or whatever. You need cash flow. And my job is to help you do that because I'm your financial professional. I understand the past. I understand what happens. I'm going to use all that to figure out how to have a better future. And that, what I just said, I'm not pitching accounting services or bookkeeping services. I'm pitching advisory, future focused services, which resonates way more than saying, hey, I could do your books better, faster, and cheaper. I could do your taxes better, faster, cheaper. There's no emotional pain point that you're targeting there. It's just not, because business owners are, my wife does my books. I don't need that. I already have an accountant. It falls flat.
No, I agree. I mean, it's interesting because it's like sales 101, right? Identify the problem and sell the solution, right? And
Totally.
that's what you're sort of saying. We got to rephrase it, because the problem isn't your books are inaccurate. They're like, I don't care about that. The problem is, like, if you don't figure out what's affecting your cash flow in this negative way, you're going to run out of cash and go out of business.
Totally.
And that's what they care about. So that's how we adjust it. And you started the CFO project to teach accountants how to have these conversations.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the CFO project was born out of this idea that we were successful at attracting business owners and selling them on a high ticket service called CFO advisory services. And we were successful at keeping our clients for a very long time. So we know how to do those three things really well: get clients, sell them on a high ticket CFO service, and keep them for a very long time. Well, we started talking to a bunch of other accountants and bookkeepers and realized that they wanted us to teach them. So we started this program where we teach accountants and bookkeepers, CPAs, and enrolled agents those three things: how to get clients made up of business owners that want a CFO advisory service, how to sell them on it without feeling like a salesperson, and then third, how to deliver a service that they like, that the client likes, that will keep the client around for a very long time. I mean, think about it. If you just charge the minimum we recommend, which is $1,500 a month, if you just charge the minimum to a client on the CFO advisory services, $1,500 a month, you only need 10 clients to make 15 grand a month. I mean, that's not much. And, that's pretty good. I mean, and then 15 grand a month times 12, that's 180,000 a year from just 10 clients.
Yep.
It beats having, 1,000 tax prep clients where you're working 80 hours during tax season.
Yeah, no, for sure. I love when you go to a website, it starts with, the same sort of sales pitch as well, the foolproof way to finally earn what you're worth. And again, just you talking the talk, you're basically identified the problem that all accountants have. Hey, I'm not earning enough money. How do I do it? And you're like, well, I've got the solution.
Totally.
So, you're everywhere I look, you're just showing up as this a little bit of a sales genius that happens to be an accountant body at this point.
Well, I mean, I think it goes back to my days is doing the e-commerce, and even in college, like knowing how to study people and figure out what makes them tick, what makes them buy things. I mean, it's such a valuable skill. I'm a firm believer that if somebody can't benefit from what you're selling, then you shouldn't sell them anything. So if that's the case, then there's really shouldn't be any bad salespeople out there. I think salespeople have this bad rep that, like the used car salesman that's trying to get you and pull one over on you.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know if that probably does exist, but that's not how I view sales. I view sales as this thing that really can help somebody solve a problem they're having or help them, enjoy life better. If you could be that person that can help them solve a pain point, then you're their hero. If you can't help them solve a pain point, you shouldn't be trying to sell them in the first place.
No, that's great advice. So you understood what the problem was with business owners, you understood what the accountant's problems were, and you brought that in together into one business. So tell us a little bit of what is the CFO Project, how does it work, how do we get involved?
Yeah, so the CFO Project is a done with you mentorship program that lasts 12 months. So the idea is that you join this program and we're going to teach you how to start or add a CFO advisory service to your practice. Or if you don't have a practice, we'll show you how to start one. But we're going to teach you three things: how to get clients, how to convert those clients to high ticket CFO advisory clients, and then how to provide a service that gets results. So we're going to teach you all these things first. Then we're going to give you a bunch of exercises so you can go out and do it with real people so you can start earning, getting clients and earning money now. As you go and do it, when you run into challenges and roadblocks, which you will, you have a group of people to turn to. So we have weekly mastermind groups. We call them CFO roundtables that meet once a week for an hour. So we have multiple different groups. You would just choose the time that works for you. And you meet with the same group every week. And each group is led by a mentor, one or more mentors. So as you go out and try to get clients, or as you go out and try to offer advisory services, and as you go out and actually provide advisory services to business owners, when you have questions or challenges, you go to these groups on each week and you talk them out, because everybody else has, at least one other person has ran into a similar challenge. But other people, when they bring up challenges, it's great to understand to hear this conversation, because these are things that you haven't even thought about or things that you should try doing. And so this program, we call it a mentorship program because it's not just training. We could train you to ride a bike by having you watch some training videos, but you're not going to learn how to actually ride a bike until you get on the bike.
Yeah.
And so that's what we want you to do. We want you to get on the bike for the bulk of the 12 months and go out and do it and build a CFO advisory practice so that either you can make more money, have more control of your time, you can get out of tax work if you want, or you could just enhance your tax or bookkeeping business and differentiate yourself from your competitors by being this sought after advisor.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, training plus mentorship generally equals success, right? Like that is a really good formula to go into it.
Yeah.
These mentors,
totally.
Are they people that have gone through your program before, or how does that mentorship selection process work?
Yep. All of them have gone through our program before and has excelled, and they have had to meet certain qualification requirements to even become a mentor. And you become an assistant mentor first, and then you become a lead mentor. But these are people that have had success and continues to have success in offering advisory services. So not to knock higher education like college or certificates or whatnot, but a lot of those programs focus on theory, what should work. Like honestly, when I went to college and through accounting, I mean, it didn't really click because they focused on theory. It clicked once I started being an accountant at my first job, that I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like, why didn't they just have me do the practice? Like, why would they teach me theory and not have me do practical lab work in accounting? It would have made way more sense, but whatever. The point is, if you really want to become a CFO advisor, much like if you want to do anything in life, you've got to understand how to do it from a practical standpoint, what actually works in the real world. And then once you understand it, then you have to actually go and do it. Once you've done it, then you've learned. I mean, there's a big difference. Like I can learn to bake a cake by watching a YouTube video, but I won't actually have learned to bake a cake. I won't have baked a cake until I actually did it myself.
No, I think that's great advice. And, anybody that's listening that's, working towards an accounting qualification, one of the things that really helped me, because I went into accounting, I had no idea what I was doing. I was just told, hey, go study accounting. You're good at accounting at school. You're good at math. You should be fine. But the only time when I actually really understood what I was getting myself into was sort of second or third year, probably second year. And I went off and what, the firms called in South Africa vacation work, where you could sign up with a firm that, employ you at minimum wage for a week or 2 weeks at a time. And you would join audits, you'd go, most of the time it was just, shredding paper at that point in time, but you got to help some
Right.
staff, you got to stick along, maybe they'd send you
Right.
to verify some assets. But at least gave me an insight into like, hey, in South Africa, your path has to go through the audit world. So now I understand what I'm actually signing up to become a chartered accountant is I'm gonna have to go do audit work, which is basically go make sure things really exist on are complete. And I was like, okay, this makes a lot of sense because I'd had an opportunity to talk to people that are going through it, talk to managers that have been there for a long time, seen hand, day to day what's going on, got a picture into going, okay, there's going to be overtime involved because they're sending me home at 4 o'clock because they're not allowed to charge overtime on me, but these guys are staying on. What time did you leave last night? Oh, 10 o'clock at night. I was like, oh, geez, okay. I guess that's what I've signed up for, but yeah, we go. And it does make a big difference because not only did I see it and learn, I got to do some stuff, maybe not the best stuff, but at least, it helped me because when I got to my first job, day one at KPMG, they sent us off after training, go join this audit. You're on the most, deadline tight audit. So you're going to do training till 4 o'clock and then get to the client at 5 and you'll be there till 9-ish. We'll see how it goes. I wasn't surprised. I was surprised they sent me, but like when I got there, I was like, hey, this is not surprising. This is what's supposed to be. Where peers that had never been through a vacation program were like, what the heck has just happened?
Right.
What are they doing? Like, I thought this was like relaxed, chill, like let's get some training in and maybe we'll start next week type situation. So it made a big difference. It took the shock away from the system
Yeah.
and it set me up in a much better place to like hit the ground running, to the point which even the managers on the job could see, hey, he probably gets a little bit more, so we need some people to work weekends. It's going to be him. The other two, we'll see you on Monday.
Yeah.
So,
It's all about application. Like once you have experience and exposure to something, it's so much easier than just learning theory and reading about it.
yeah. And to be clear, like they were much better at the job than I was, but just because I had less shock to the system, that's why they kept me. But I think one of the other things that you touch on there, Adam, which probably doesn't get said enough. There's a couple of episodes. If you guys could check out the episode with Bill Vick, he talks about this a lot. That the power of a peer group is crazy important, and you can get that by I meet up with for lunch with a couple of accountants in the area to discuss our business. You can get it through a group like yours where you're all getting together and discussing on a weekly basis. But having those people that are living the same experiences as you right now is such a powerful tool towards your own success.
Yeah, 100%. You learn different perspectives. You have people to lean on for help and for guidance and support. And not to mention, if you're a practice owner, you're sort of silo. Even if you have employees, it's lonely being at the top. And there's not that many people to turn to for help. And it's just refreshing to go to a place where, everybody knows your name, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
It's refreshing to go there and be known and know other people and be a part of your peers, not people that are below you or above you. These are your peers. And these are people that are all trying to do the same thing as you. And they're struggling with the same things you're struggling with. But then this is a place when you have a win. Like we have a wins play board in our program where people post wins and they announce their wins at their weekly mastermind groups and everybody gets to celebrate with them. And then we ask how you got the win. Like you got a new client. How did you get the new client? What did you say? What was their pain points? What were they struggling with? That in and of itself helps everybody else learn too. And you emulate each other. And it's just this powerful.
Another great point for everybody out there. We don't just learn in failure. There's opportunity for growth and learning in the wins as well. And we share that with people we know. It is a great way for other people to learn because you're probably going to say something that somebody else hasn't thought of before. And that is super helpful. And one of the reasons I love peer groups is that we can talk and share and, brainstorm and even just have empathy towards each other. Like, gosh, that sucks.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't know how to help you, but that sucks and I feel for you.
Yeah. And just being able to talk about it, being able to just talk to other people about, hey, this is what what happened, what my client said to me yesterday, or there's not that many places to turn to for that type of help.
For sure. Adam, can you share with us what your day to day as a CEO, co-founder of the CFO Project looks like? What does your daily rituals look like?
I mean, it's a good question because it varies day to day. But if you look at it in buckets, one of the largest buckets is just marketing and sales, just
Mm-hmm.
figuring out new strategies to get leads, and then how to improve the existing strategies. So we have multiple different strategies, and within each strategy, we have multiple different tactics to get leads, and so we're constantly improving those. So I'm looking at, I'm honestly doing what I do with clients. I analyze the numbers. So I analyze all the leading indicators of revenue
Mm-hmm.
daily and determine which ones need the most attention. And then I create an action plan essentially around it. And then myself and my team, we focus on executing the action plan. And then we know if the action plan is working because the metrics that I'm measuring, are they improving or not? Am I hitting the targets or not? I mean, honestly, it's the exact same thing that we do with business owner clients. We look at their numbers, figure out what's working, what's not, and then figuring out how to fix what's not working. A lot of it is coaching the team. And then my favorite part is just strategizing on the future, like brainstorming on new ideas and products that we can roll out, new features of the CFO project that we can roll out. For example, last week we just launched a brand new feature of the program where we invited an expert, a communications expert, to come in and do workshops with our members on how to communicate better to get sales, to get clients. When you're sitting next to a business owner at a Rotary group, for instance, that's a prospect. That's an ideal prospect for you. But most accountants can't say the right things in a confident manner in order to get that prospect to take some sort of action. So that's, this is a brand new feature. It's a workshop where you get a communications expert to role play and to workshop those things with you. So anyways, that's just one example of a feature that we rolled out that, I enjoy working on.
Great. So, living the program, which is, amazing, that's a great sales tool in itself, is that, you use the program to run your own business, which is great. And I do love the point on people like not quite understanding, like, hey, that could be a sales prospect right in front of you. And I think, a lesson that I got taught a while ago was like, when people ask you in conversation, what do you do? The worst thing you can possibly say to them is that I'm an accountant, because that's generally just going to switch off the conversation.
Of course.
So I try to go with the, I help winery owners be successful. And that's like, oh, you work in the wine industry, and it runs into a bit more of a conversation. Where honestly, if you say accountant, this like it's dead in the water, right? They'll rather talk about the weather than ask you about being an accountant.
I mean, just that simple statement, I help winery owners be successful. You said three very powerful things that I think a lot of people gloss over. Winery owners. So if you're talking to a winery owner and you say that, then they immediately pick up because they're like, oh, you're in my world. they now are paying attention to you. Then you help. What business owner doesn't want help? So you establish yourself as a winery who helps, regardless of what you help them do. You help them do something. They need help, so they're going to pay attention to what you help them with and be successful. Everybody has their own version of success, as we talked about earlier. And so when you say, I help them be successful, they interpret that as to whatever their version of success is. And that, at the very least, you've held their attention. Whereas you're right. If you say, well, I'm an accountant, it's like, okay, nice to see you.
Or they ask, can you help me with my taxes? And I'm like, I'm not that type of accountant. So I'm not going to be very helpful in that situation.
Right. I mean, yeah. I agree with you.
Yeah. So it's been quite a journey, from like the switch of major from architect to accounting. You went through, starting out at a very large company, doing some accounting work. You rolled out your own business, super successful, you're able to exit, and now you're running, the CFO Project, which is helping other people being successful. And that's a lot of shininess that we've discussed over the last 45 minutes. But I know there must have been some challenging times along the way. Are you able to share some of the challenges that you experienced and how you got through them?
I mean, honestly, there haven't been any challenges. No, I'm just kidding. There's been a ton of challenges. I mean, just off the top of my head, when I started my e-commerce business, I mean, I went through 4 iterations of e-commerce store, just pivoting to see what works. I mean, the first one I did, it was just, I didn't know what I didn't know. And so when I started getting traffic to it, they didn't buy. And the point of that is I could have just easily given up because I had a job, but I was passionate about what I did and I wanted to succeed. And you have to have this sort of drive to you have to have this drive to want it bad enough to keep at it, because it was hard. I mean, it really was. But then the other big challenge came after I left my day job and I had my e-commerce store for a couple of years. I ran into several big challenges. And the first was things were going well, and then things softened up, and things were going well. And then all of a sudden things weren't going well, like within a short period of time. But what was crazy is that I couldn't understand why. And because of my accounting background, I tried to analyze the numbers, but I still couldn't understand why. So I did the easy route. I went the easy route. I went to my accountant and I said, can you tell me what is going on? What do I need to do to get my business back on track? And I remember the conversation. She looked at my numbers and she says, well, I don't know. I don't know. Like it was just baffling to me. Well, what do you mean you don't know? Like, and it turns out she's an accountant. She's a tax accountant. That's what she does. She's not a business. She's not an analyzer of businesses from a holistic strategic standpoint. She's a tax accountant. So whether the business lives or dies, her job is to perform the taxes on that business, to prep the taxes for that business. But it was frustrating from my standpoint because I'm asking my financial professional for guidance and she couldn't give me guidance. That was so frustrating. So and then I went to a business coach and I met with this lady for probably 8 months. We met every month at a Chick-fil-A
Nice.
and for a couple hours. And we went through everything. And because she didn't approach anything from a number standpoint, she thought her methodology was all about, creating like SWOT analysis and all these other things that business plans and stuff that really didn't translate into the real world. And I was just equally as lost. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way. There has to be, because you can't ignore the numbers when you're talking about a business, because the only thing that matters is cash flow. And so I just said, well, fine, I'm just going to do this myself. And I dug in, and over the next couple of years, I created this methodology to understand exactly what's working and what's not in a business, in my business specifically. And I created this giant dashboard that's color coded, red, green, or yellow, for all of the metrics that drive revenue, profit, and cash flow. So, and then I updated some of the metrics every day, all the other ones once a month, once the books are closed. And then I was able to look at this report and figure out, okay, if I improve this one thing, it'll have a bigger impact to cash flow than if I improve this other thing. And then I figured out, all right, so this thing that I need to improve the most, what's driving that driver? Then I figured out all the drivers that are driving that driver. And then I was able to slowly but surely improve my business again, because I was focused on doing the things that would have a measurable impact to cash flow. And that set the precedence for being able to help other business owners, because I applied the same methodology to them and they loved it. But I wouldn't have been able to do any of that if I didn't go through this very rough period. At the same time, I was also sent a cease and desist letter by a major sporting goods retailer because they thought this all happened within a short period of time, because they thought I was stealing leveraging their trademarks for my benefit, which was hilarious because I didn't sell one thing that they sold. We didn't have the same SKU. We didn't have anything remotely similar, and it was just baffling. And anyway, but it was still a traumatic whole episode. So I had to get a lawyer and do all this other stuff. But
all those fun things in business, I think you'll never have to experience. It popped up.
Yeah, but it was all learning lessons. I wouldn't want to go through them again, but they were all learning lessons.
Yeah, so what I take away from that, when the first one is, there's no such thing as overnight success. You're going to have to work hard. There's going to be failures along the way. I've always heard, sometimes online retail is all about SEO. Let's get people to our website. that getting them to your website is one thing, getting them to actually purchase something is the real challenge. Got
Totally.
to figure that portion out. I wish winery owners would understand that, these websites where it takes 35 clicks for me to actually get a bottle of wine into a cart is not helping anybody. Next important point there is, I think every accountant should take away from here is, if you are consulting, business owners aren't necessarily requiring you to solve all the problems, but they do want you to at least be able to identify where the problems are, so they understand which levers they need to pull to make a difference. That's what your dashboard's doing, right? It's identified, it's giving you the red sign. These are problematic. Let's go look at them. Let's go fix them. And last point, there's going to be weird things that pop up in business. If you don't have a thick skin and you're not ready for a little bit of craziness, entrepreneurship might not be for you.
Agreed.
Awesome.
Agreed. But it is more helpful when you have other people going through this with you. I can say that.
Adam, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the best piece of advice, this is going to sound cheesy, but what was that song by MC Hammer? If you don't want to work hard, you might as well quit. I mean, I think that stuck with me for a very long time, because if you're not willing to put in the effort and work hard, then you might as well quit, because you're going to get eaten.
Yeah, agreed. I tell my kids that on a daily basis. Hard work is going to pay off in the long run. And that's to 7 and 8 year old. And so great advice. This obviously is a show about leadership, and we're trying to make better leaders. What advice would you give people listening to this to help them improve their leadership ability?
I mean, leadership is such a vague term.
Mm-hmm.
I've defined it as really having influence over other people. And so the piece of advice I would give is if you have influence over anybody, you got to leverage that and wield that power really, really well. In other words, you got to protect your influence over other people. So if you treat other people badly or wrongly, you lose influence. If you use them or abuse them, of course, then you lose that leverage that you have, that influence. And so if you have any level of influence, you've got to protect that influence as much as possible by doing right by the people that you have the influence over.
Yep. Leadership is a privileged position built on trust. And if you misuse it, you will lose that trust, and then you lose that influence, and then leadership is gone.
I mean, there's a difference between a leader and a boss, a big difference. Massive. I'm sure you've discussed that on the show.
Yeah. I'm sure we could spend an hour discussing that as well. Maybe.
Yeah, totally.
To get you back in a year's time or so, we can just discuss that topic in general. Adam, to sort of like close out here before we jump into my favorite rapid fire questions, can you tell us something about you in the personal capacity to get a better idea of who you are as a person?
I think I'm a self-proclaimed introvert. I don't like being the center of attention, and I don't like being being around a whole bunch of people all the time. But I can tell you though that I've had a lot of success selling things like my e-commerce store, selling the CFO services, because I cared about the person I was selling to. So you could be an introvert and be a fantastic salesperson, because again, as long as the person you're talking to feels like you care about them, that's all that matters. I mean, everybody, nobody really remembers what you had to say. They only remember how you make them feel. And so if you could make somebody feel like they're valued and special and you care for them, they're going to pay attention to what you have to say, and they're going to buy what you have, because everybody craves that. Everybody craves that. So I think that's a good piece of advice, and a little bit about myself. I'm definitely an introvert.
Well, that is a great insight, and you've done a fantastic job being center of attention today. So I appreciate you, jumping out of that introvert space and sharing all your knowledge with us today. Adam, I do really appreciate your time. What we do love to do at Party Conversations is end with some rapid fire. I have 5 questions for you. If you're ready, we'll get them going.
Let's do it.
Great. What is your dream vacation?
Traveling to foreign countries on a cruise ship. So a cruise ship around the world.
They say that's the right way to retire nowadays. Cheaper than
Yeah, probably.
staying in assisted facilities. Number 2, do you prefer audiobooks or paper books?
Oh, paper by far.
It's interesting. I've adjusted a lot to audio over the last few years, just being more productive.
Yeah, but I'm the type of person that I want to read something for comprehension, and I'm the type of person that has to reread it, certain things multiple times. And I'm talking about business, non-fiction books here. But I don't know. Plus, I like having books on my shelf. It's almost like a trophy.
Yeah, I was watching a presentation by Bob Berg last week, who's the co-author of The Go-Giver, which is a must-read book for everybody. And they asked him 3 books people should read, and he pulled them out, and you just see all the labels on every book that he's read, and you're like, yeah, he's a paper guy. Like, he's clearly reread these books 100 times, so you really got to trust what he's saying about them. Adam, if you had 20 minutes to exercise, what would that exercise be?
If I had 20 minutes to exercise, bike riding.
Nice. What is your favorite piece of technology that you use on a daily basis to make your life easier?
That's a good question. I would say my Apple Watch. It's my new favorite. I got it earlier this year, and after resisting for a while.
Yeah, I resisted till December, so I'm about 10 months in, and I'm right there with you. It makes such a big difference to my life. Last question. What is your favorite meal from your childhood?
Pizza. Still pizza.
Any type, or just plain cheese, or you got one that you'll go to?
I like thin crust pepperoni. Well done.
Nice.
Well done. I can't stand like cold sauce, or I want it like crispy and.
And with that, we end another Project Conversations. Thank you for joining us in the journey of learning and inspiration. Today, we've gained insights from our guests and taken another step towards understanding the diverse tapestry of leadership in business and accounting. Remember, each conversation is a step towards the positive transformation of business leaders. We hope our discussions have given you valuable takeaways to apply in your own career and life. Don't forget to subscribe to Project Conversations on YouTube and Spotify so you never miss an episode. We'd also love to hear your thoughts and experiences, so connect with me on my social media channels. I'm most active on LinkedIn and would love for you to join the conversation. Join us next time for more engaging stories, advice, and conversations that matter. Until then, keep striving for excellence and embracing growth. Thank you for listening, be kind, and goodbye from Project Conversations.